Hi, and welcome to Open, the show that opens the Bronx and the rest of the world to you. I'm Kibin, and today we'll update you what's happening in and around our borough. Coming up, we speak with an author to learn more about his new book, which speaks on modern life's relentless demands that often lead to exhaustion and dissatisfaction. And then we speak to a representative from City Beet Kitchens for Project Renewal, along with a graduate of their culinary arts training program to learn how they're helping those in need this holiday season. After that, we look back at an interview with the founder of Vanmoto Media to discuss their film school mentorship program. And finally, the executive director of Mo Motion Basketball is joined by a representative from WEDCO to speak on their partnership, which helps get kids started in team play at an early age. So stay tuned, all this and much more is headed your way because we're now officially open. Hello everyone, I'm Kibin and today is Tuesday, November 19th. You are now watching Open, a program that brings the Bronx and New York City straight to you. Don't forget to stay connected with us via social media at BronxNet TV. Julio Vincent Gambuto is the author of the new book, Please Unsubscribe, Thanks, How to Take Back Our Time, Attention, and Purpose in a Relentless World. His book engages readers in an eye-opening conversation about work that will change your perspective. Julio joins me now to discuss his work. Julio, thank you so much for joining me.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Now, before we get into the book, I would love to learn a little bit more about you. You have like a really interesting background. Can you tell me a little bit more about your background in media and all the work that you've done over this time?
Sure, I'm an author and a movie maker. I started out really as a writer and then went back to film school when I was in my 30s and worked in TV and children's television and then moved over to working in independent film. And then the pandemic hit and life got turned upside down. And I wrote my first book, which came out, the paperback just came out this August. So.
Now, can you tell us, when did you know you wanted to become an author and kind of tell a story off the screen?
I've always been a writer. So, as a kid, that's just kind of the way I processed the world. And other kids were playing baseball and I was taking notes and kind of just had my notebook out all the time. And that was the way I kind of learned how to express myself. So I've always wanted to write a book. I'm not sure I thought I would write this book first, but I've always wanted to put pen to paper that way.
Now, what I love about your story, just your overall background, is that you kind of emphasize writing in the world of making movies, where some people think the first thing you do is pick up a camera. I like that you kind of were like, hey, let me pick up a pen and paper. Can you talk about, kind of how those two mediums, like writing and making movies, kind of go hand in hand?
Totally. It's funny because in film school, you have all these directors who came from the camera side, and then you had a few of us who came from the theater side or from the writing side, and we helped each other out through film school because, those folks would say, hey, I don't know how to run an audition. And I would say, I don't know how to turn the camera on. So, but I come at it from a story perspective. I think storytelling is so important and so powerful. And so I consider myself a writer, and I've had the chance to write for television and to write for films and direct them and to write books. And so the sort of common denominator for me is always, what is the story? How do you tell the story? How do you tell it well? Whether it's in a 250-page book or an hour and a half on screen. So.
Now, I definitely want to get into this story. Please unsubscribe. Thanks. Can you tell me, what inspired you to create this and how did the pandemic kind of influence it?
Well, the pandemic was a doozy, as we all know, and I found myself locked at home in an apartment in Manhattan for about 6 months straight. And it was a moment where my life just ground to a halt. I was just constantly going. My life was always on the go, on the move. The ringing and the pinging and the dinging were sort of always happening. And the pandemic was really the first time I found myself embracing the calm and embracing the quiet and kind of just leaning into that moment. And I think it revealed a lot about life and maybe what life was full of and what life was missing. And it called on me to kind of make some hard decisions about what to take out of life and sort of, in this parlance, like unsubscribe from.
Now, what I like about the title Unsubscribe is like when I think of the pandemic, I think about how everyone was subscribing to like, everything.
Totally.
Can you explain, what that title kind of means to you? Like, what does it mean to unsubscribe?
Well, I really started exactly where you would think, right? Like in my inbox, subscription emails, like I just got rid of all of them one day. I unsubscribed from everything that was flooding my inbox. And that kind of kicked off this process of really understanding that, I can disconnect from a lot more than just email. I can limit what's on my phone. I can limit how much TV I'm watching. I can limit who's in my life, what my social networks look like online and offline. And that kind of led to an even deeper analysis of like, I could actually change and limit my own behavior and my own thought processes about all sorts of things that were in my life. Success, money, love, all the things that are really important. The whole process sort of called on me to reevaluate.
Now, I want to talk about the idea of the ultimate gaslighting. I know this is a word that a lot of people use, and I feel like it's something that I would say maybe within the last 10 years people have been using a lot. But I'm curious to know, what does that concept mean to you?
So during the pandemic, at the height of the pandemic, sort of about a month into it, I wrote this essay on medium.com called Prepare for the Ultimate Gaslighting. And it got a very large response online. And it was really about the moment that we were in and my concern that there was going to be this huge pressure to go back to normal, whether normal was like 3 weeks later or a year later or 3 years later. There was going to be this real drive from big business and from government to say, hey, we've got to get back to the treadmill. We've got to get back to you being stressed out. We've got to get back to overconsumption, buys, click, click, click. And I really thought and had genuine concerns that that process would be manipulative. And so gaslighting to me was the term to use for kind of creating a reality where, we had just lost 1 million people, and now we were being asked to go buy a new SUV, And so I sort of felt like that disconnect was about to happen in a big way, and I think it did happen in a big way. So that's what the essay was about. And so I wasn't entirely comfortable using the word, but I think it was really appropriate.
And now that it's been, 4 years, we're going to be coming up on 5 years, from the time you wrote that, how will you say things have evolved since then, and has your ideas about it changed?
Yeah, they go up and down, and I think through all the chapters that we've been through in the last 5 years, which has felt like 20, I've certainly thought through those moments through the lens of the essay. But I think, what we've sort of seen, even with this election, if you will, is that we've forgotten or been asked to forget what happened in 2020, whether it be the pandemic or whether it be the social reckoning that we saw in the summer of 2020. So, people have genuine concerns about this moment right now, and plenty of people are saying, hey, that's in the past, and that's legit. But I think that there has been a real pressure to kind of forget how bad it was, and perhaps to not remember the lessons that we learned. So I wanted to chronicle the lessons. I wanted to put the lessons down on paper for myself and for anybody who kind of wanted the opportunity or to take the opportunity to relearn them and to kind of step back.
Now, what are some practical steps readers can take to unsubscribe from the aspects of life that no longer serve them? And I will say that this is something that myself, I know a lot of people were like, I'm deleting Instagram, or, we do all these things, but then we kind of go back. What are some steps that people,
right back in.
Yeah, what can people do to ensure that they're actually committing to that?
Well, look, there's plenty of tips I can give. The book has got about 100 plus practical and tactical strategies, right? For example, I limit my social media to just my laptop, not my phone. I only have 10 apps on my phone. That's my personal limit. I make sure that like I have an unsubscribe day once a week or once every 2 weeks where I really don't take the phone out of the house. I don't have it attached to my hip. There's a lot of things that you can do, but I think that the really important thing is the thinking behind it, right? In any given situation, to ask yourself, how can I slow this down and how can I put limits back in? Because that's really what's happened in the last 20 years is we have sped it all up. It's all gotten really, really fast. The economy is fast and the computers are fast and everything is fast. And also we've taken limits away. We've taken boundaries away. We've sort of eroded all of the social fabric that keeps things human and keeps things connected. So in any situation, whether it's like parenting a child or buying something at the store or being online, how can we slow it down a little bit? And how can we put limits back in? Those are really important ways, I think, at least, to think about how we lead our lives day to day.
Now, I'm also really shocked to hear that you can do something like this with your career, because I know a lot of people, once they have a book or they work in TV, they're constantly always online. You know, how do you make it work for you?
So I have really scheduled time in my calendar for social media and for promotion, and I'm hard when I'm like in there, right? I go hard in those 2 periods in my calendar, but then I really try to step back and not engage all the time. I think this idea of us always being on is really dangerous for us and for our mental health and sometimes for our physical health. And so, but I would be lying if I didn't say it was difficult to promote a book and at the same time, tell people, maybe it's time to step back a little bit.
Now, how do you balance humor with serious topics in your writing? Because I know these are the ideas or just the thoughts that give people, almost a crisis. So how do you handle that with humor and kind of lighten the mood a little bit?
That's a good question. My mom, when I was a kid, used to say, if I don't laugh, I'll cry. And what she meant by that was like, life is really hard and you kind of have to find the moments of humor and joy and break the tension. So I as best as I can, I use humor in my writing and in my screen work to break the tension, to lighten the mood, to always kind of follow a really intense passage or scene or moment with something lighter so that people kind of get a break from how heavy things can be. And I think we've been in a really heavy period in the world in the last 5 years. So I think humor is so much more important than it's ever been.
Now, what do you hope readers take away from your book in terms of personal or societal change?
I hope people can use it as an opportunity to step back, to just kind of question what we're being asked to do all day long, how much time we're being asked to spend on our phones, on our screens, how much we're being asked to buy, and just take a beat and get a little bit more conscious about where we put our time, where we put our money, where we put our attention. I think if readers can use the book as a way to make life a little bit better, that would certainly make me happy and proud. So.
Now, are there any upcoming projects or new books in the works?
Sure. So yeah, I'm speaking at South by Southwest in March.
Congrats.
Thank you. So I'm very excited about that. And then I'm working on a stage presentation of the book. So sort of, if you will, like a one-man show type of event to sort of talk more about the themes of the book in a way that's humorous and entertaining and also, serious and meaningful. So.
Now, where can people go to find the book, to support, and to maybe change your life?
So go to juliovincent.com. Where's the camera? juliovincent.com, Julio Vincent.com. That's my website, and all of my projects are there, and you can link to the book. But it's sold everywhere. It was just the pick of the month at Barnes & Noble, and so
Wow.
it's had a really great run for the last few months, and I hope it'll keep going. So.
Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us and having this conversation. I think no matter where you are, your background, age, I feel like it's something that we could all connect to and learn from. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
To learn more about the book and other work that Julio does, please go to his website, juliovincent.com. Don't go away. We'll be back with more Open right after this.
Hey, Creative Family. My name is Timothy Coleman, and I'm the Director of Education here at BronxNet. And I'm standing in BronxNet's Media and Technology Studios in the South Bronx because I want to let you know about an amazing program that we're bringing back that highlights the creativity of community members just like you. Emerging Media Makers is a show that introduces you to BronxNet's certified producers. They've taken a step in their creative journey by enrolling in BronxNet's media training classes. On this show, you'll get to see the many ways that our certified producers have created a space that's all their own. Emerging Media Makers, your passion lives here.
Welcome back. This Thanksgiving, City Beet Kitchens is partnering with corporate volunteers and others to prepare over 5,000 meals for those in need. Joining me now to discuss this effort is Barbara Hughes, the Executive Director of City Beet Kitchens for Project Renewal and graduate of the Culinary Arts Training Program, Renee Escobar. Thank you both so much for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
Now, Barbara, can you tell me a little bit more about the Project Renewal and its mission?
Our mission is to help New Yorkers who are homeless or are threatened by homelessness to provide health, homes, and jobs. Jobs is the part where I come in.
Okay, wonderful. And then I would love to learn a little bit more about the Culinary Arts Training Program.
We've been around since 1992. So it's 30 plus years of doing culinary training. It's a long program, a little longer than a lot of the other culinary programs in New York City. We're 6 months long. People do a 3-month internship, and they also do 3-month kitchen training in our commercial kitchen before they go on their internship. They graduate. We provide jobs for them, help with employment, and work with them until they're employed or they don't want to work with us anymore. We're always there.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that, there's continuous support. I think that's always a great, aspect to any program. Now, Renee, what brought you to the Project Renewal's Culinary Arts Training Program? And, throughout that, what were some of the things that you learned or some challenges you faced?
I want to change. I wanted to go back in the work field, but I didn't want to do fast food. So, and that's something I've always wanted to do as a child, like to be a chef and everything. So the opportunity came. I'm one of the residents at the villa, and I took the opportunity and I did what I had to do. My challenges was my knife skills, my carving skills, but I got the hang of it and I took it from there.
That's amazing. And then, can you just explain what was a typical day within the program kind of like?
Like, what do you mean? I don't understand.
Oh, did you learn different recipes or, what can people expect if they were to also join this program?
I learned a lot of different recipes, like Italian foods and Spanish foods. Yeah.
Okay, that's amazing. Now, can you tell me a little bit more about how the overall, program has impacted you, way beyond, graduating from it?
It changed my life. It's going to give me something to do, at the end of the day when I start working. I have an interview today for 5 guys, so
that's amazing.
After this, I'm going there.
That's amazing. And can you talk, just hearing something like that, what is it like to see that, the people that you've worked with and trained are kind of going on and doing amazing things?
You see, I'm grinning from ear to ear. And I'm especially proud of Renee because she mentions the Villa, which is one of our programs. And when we are housing someone, giving someone other services, and they come to us for training, it's like a bonus for us. It's one of our Project Renewal folks. And Renee's really just exceeded in so many ways. And she mentions knife skills. This is what we drill day after day after day because this is what chefs, restaurateurs need a person to have when they come to the door and apply for a job. This is the #1 skill they need.
And what I love to hear about it is that, in a borough like the Bronx, we obviously have so many amazing cooks and people who can make rich cuisines. But understanding like small skills like that, well, they may not be small in that area, but skills like that could be crucial. Can you talk about maybe some other training aspects, this program provides?
Well, knife skills is number one. Of course, you have to understand what ingredients are, what they look like, so that you recognize them if the chef asks you for them. But the other part of our program is about support, because you can't get to a job if you don't show up, you're on time, you have a good attitude, you really want to work hard, and that's what employers are looking for. And that is something we provide, as well as skills training. We're drilling those skills training every day. We're trying to give people as much as we can within 3 months, overview of what they might find out on a job or will find out on a job, but they're also getting support and learning how to be a great employee.
That's amazing. Now, I want to talk a little bit about City Beet Kitchens. I understand we talked about the Project Renewal as a whole, but can you tell me a little bit more about City Beet Kitchens?
We created City Beet Kitchens as a mission to create jobs for folks that we train, and also to bring some revenue back into our training program, because these programs are very, very difficult to find funding for. So our business was created to do that two-part mission. That was in 1995. So we're almost 30 years into this. And we have two divisions of our catering. One is event catering, and the other, we cater to other institutions like ours, where we're providing meals for people who are in shelters or programs, and it's become very successful for us.
That's amazing. Now, Renee, I understand that you have some plans for today, so that's amazing. But, looking long term, let's say in 10 years, what do you hope to see, or what do you hope this path continues to take you?
Hopefully, I would like to be a chef. So that's my next move. Tomorrow, I also am registering to start my GED.
Oh, wow, congrats.
So, yeah, I'm going to register for that tomorrow. So my schedule is going to be pretty booked. So, but I'm excited. I can't wait.
That's amazing. And I love to hear that, because it kind of shows like even if you start out with one thing, it could lead to, something else that could help, further your life. So I think that's amazing. Now, I want to talk about Thanksgiving because I understand that there's going to be an effort to kind of support those in need during Thanksgiving. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Well, we have the event side of our catering is like through the roof with bookings for Thanksgiving. We have many, many volunteer groups coming every day in the lead up to the meal service. And we're going to be doing hundreds and hundreds of packaged meals that we deliver all across the city.
Yeah, and I want to mention, I said the number 5,000 meals. That is a lot of people to feed, and it's showing that there's a need in New York City. Throughout this work, can you explain what you've noticed in regard to, just feeding those in need? Is it something that you're seeing continuously increase? How is the presence of an organization like this kind of helping with that?
I think the best way to explain it is that we have multiple kitchens at Project Renewal. City Beet Kitchens is at capacity. If we had more space, we could do more meals. There's so much need for people to do this, and we don't see that ending anytime soon.
That's okay. Definitely. Thank you so much for sharing that. And then with that, I understand that volunteer is going to be a huge part of this. Can you tell me more?
We always have volunteers at Thanksgiving. That's sort of the typical time. Of course, we would love to have them every single day, but that's when a lot of corporations and the groups that they have come as a group, as a team building exercise to help us package meals that we've cooked. And we actually need those people desperately because we don't have enough people to do as many meals as we have to send out, and there's always time constraints. So people can go to our website and get all the information about how to volunteer, and somebody will get back to them and set them up with an appointment. And Also, we run shelters in the city where we have Thanksgiving meals, and people come and they volunteer and they serve the meals along with our staff, and that's always a great thing to do too.
Now, Renee, I want to kind of switch over to you. Can you talk about, ways you're going to be helping with this mission, and how does it make you feel?
It makes me feel good. I'm excited, you know. I'm really, really excited, so yeah.
Is this the first time that you've ever helped in this capacity?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, it is.
Okay. And can you explain, what are you looking forward to most, or, what do you hope that you'll see, just even, just assisting people with helping the community?
Just to see them happy and full, you know, that makes my day.
And can you expand on maybe how it also helps you? I know this isn't your first time doing this, but, how does it, how do you feel when you are helping the community?
Yeah, it's sort of my 30-plus time doing it, but it still makes me smile. It still brings tears to my eyes. It's a passion, and it's the most amazing place to be and be able to give back, to know people like Renee, to see the smile on her face, and to multiply that by the hundreds of people that have come through our programs and graduated, and it's kind of rendering me speechless. It's just a great feeling.
That's amazing. And then, with that, I just want to know what actually got, because saying 30 years is a very long time, what actually got you involved or started with this?
I had a career in the restaurant industry in New York, and the AIDS crisis changed my life. And I wanted to give back. I wanted to, do something besides just being in a kitchen, making money, going home, this job came to me, and it allowed me to give back for all these years.
Now, I want to say that just with that, the idea of food in general, it brings so many people together. It brings communities together. And I love to see that you're using, this platform to not only educate people and provide a pathway, but to help those who may not be, in that position to kind of take on those programs and just assist people in need. Once again, can you just let people know if they want to help, if they want to learn more about the organization, what can they do to kind of be a part of it?
Well, the best thing that people can do is to go to our website, projectrenewal.org, and it's actually a brand new website that we've just updated, and it takes you immediately to the place that you want to be, answering questions. Our program is there. Our menu for City Beet Kitchens is there. There's a barcode. All you have to do is check out the barcode, and you'll know what our menu is. And it's as easy as that.
All right, well, with that, I want to thank you both so much for joining us. And I want to just definitely once again highlight the effort, you're making to ensure that people, aren't hungry and feel warmth this Thanksgiving. So thank you so much.
Thanks for getting the word out.
To learn more about this program and to help support their holiday efforts, please go to their website at projectrenewal.org. Stay tuned. We have more for you right after this.
.7% of Bronxites currently experience food insecurity. Meanwhile, instead of these nice, colorful foods, this is the best food that they have access to. If this sounds like you, there are a bunch of resources to get healthy food for free or cheap. If you want to help, you might consider donating or volunteering in one of these places. Community fridges like this one are all over the city, and allow New Yorkers to conveniently donate extra food to people who might need it. Go to this link and find your nearest one. Food banks and pop-up events like these provide millions of healthy meals to families in need. These organizations are distributing meals to Bronxites as we speak, and are always accepting donations and volunteers.
me if you're feeling sad.
Thanks for hearing me out, bro.
Whenever you need to talk, I'm here, okay?
Welcome back. We'd like to take this time to look back at an interview with Jackson Van Horn, the founder of Vanmoto Media, to discuss his program that helps pair up students with mentors as they apply to film school. Let's take a look. Now, before we learn more about your efforts to bring a film resource to kids in the Bronx, which is amazing, by the way, I'd love to learn a little bit more about your upbringing with film as a kid.
Yeah, you know, I think I was just always in awe of how films can make you feel, and just being able to be transported to a whole other world, I always, you know, found so interesting. And to be honest, I was also like an only child for 7 years, so I feel like you get bored after a while, and, you know, movies were sort of my outlet to be creative and imaginative.
Now, how did you develop your voice and your vision as a filmmaker despite the lack of resources? And where did you get the courage to know that even though it's not around you, it was still something that you wanted to do?
Yeah, you know, I think it's important early on to sort of realize your resources and your access to resources really doesn't define your artistry and your work. So, you know, I went to a school that did not have a film program. And so every day after school in middle school, I would like go home and watch YouTube videos, learning filmmaking, things like that. And so it's really about finding your own resources. And it's really great because it allows you to also think outside the box and troubleshoot in new and creative ways.
Now, I was really impressed to hear that while you were in high school, you launched your own equity and sustainability plan. Tell me a little bit more about that and the importance of representation and diversity in film.
Yeah, you know, I think over the last couple of years, everyone can sort of kind of recognize that representation in film is so important. I just saw a survey, you know, that 52% of Americans could not name a single famous Asian American. 26% were Asian Americans who they surveyed. And so that's like central to why representation is important. People deserve to see themselves. And it's also so important to be exposed to other cultures. And so in high school, I was sort of, you know, there were a lot of conversations going on about how we could improve this. And one of the ways I thought of was creating guidelines internally at, you know, our own productions, things I was directing, producing, that could sort of outline and guide us to what a set should look like and how to make it inclusive.
And I'm curious to know, as mentioned, this was in high school. So, you know, was there a particular moment that you realized, like, hey, I'm not seeing myself, you know, in film or television? Or was it maybe a friend who, you know, talked about that? What was that moment for you that you knew you wanted to do this?
Yeah, you know, I was applying to film schools at the time, actually, and working on a lot of my essays. And so one of the things that really came up for me as I was reflecting on a lot of the media that I grew up with was that there weren't a lot of like positive representations of certain demographics and things like that. And so I really wanted to sort of shift that narrative and really try and improve it, yeah.
Now, can you highlight the new and improved equity plan and the role it plays in ensuring diversity?
Yeah, so when I was founding Vanmoto Media, I wanted us to be a production company, but also to operate in many ways as a think tank. And so we sort of workshopped our old plan, and this one is new and improved. It also is external, so any producer, any company can actually go on our website and look at it, and we educate them on how to monitor diversity and track the data and also analyze it. And we also improved the numbers to really make sure that we're reflecting the demographics of the United States. And so we increase those requirements for all of our productions so that we just make sure we're reflecting the world around us.
And, you know, I was able to see some of those numbers and some of the, you know, just the guidelines, and I thought they were so well thought out. You know, it was actually really amazing to see, because I think that a lot of the time people, when they say diversity, it's like one of that, you know, and I think that, you know, those guidelines really help to kind of avoid the tokenism, which I thought was amazing. So I definitely wanted to give you a moment to highlight. Do you want to expand on that? Just, you know, the importance of like why you had certain numbers and why you thought certain things out?
Yeah, you know, I think one of the areas that our plan focuses on is behind the camera, because it's not really as visible as in front of the camera. In front of the camera with actors, it's a lot easier to track and see how diversity is being improved, but behind the camera, it's a lot harder to sort of understand that data, and we get really into the weeds and talk about higher positions on set, for certain projects that revolve around certain themes, whether it be racial themes and things like that. It's important to have people behind the camera who are also reflecting those themes.
Now, how did the Vanmoto Media Film School Mentorship Program begin?
Yeah, I was at USC at the time, and a lot of my classmates, I had realized, went to the USC Film Summer Program, and I sort of remembered being in high school really wanting to go to it. It was sort of known as like a secret way to improve your admission chances, and I really wanted to go there. But they didn't offer financial aid, and my family really couldn't afford it at the time, and it was not possible, and it felt like a door shut in my face. And so as I was sort of thinking back to that, there needed to be something to offset that, right? Just because you're having a summer program that essentially gives a push up to people who already have that privilege and already have a leg up. And so I wanted something to offset that, and I was sort of thinking about starting this mentorship program, and I received a direct message on Instagram from actually our first mentee, Nobert. He found me on TikTok. I was just doing different content around filmmaking, and he asked if I could mentor him. I was like, perfect. I was just thinking about this. And so we got to work with him, and then once after that first year, we just didn't stop. It was just such a great experience.
Now, a lot of these kids, students, young adults have access and are able to learn from industry professionals. Can you talk about the importance of having those professionals there, and what do they add to the program?
Yeah, so we tend to try and target younger industry professionals just because they're in lower positions in the industry, which is theoretically what these high schoolers will eventually be working in. They're on the ground floor. They're able to really give insight into what's happening in the industry, what the job market looks like. And everyone also has a different path working in entertainment. And so it also gets the mentees to really start thinking about beyond film school, like what jobs do they want to pursue, and what are the different pathways? Because I think you also really have to create your own pathway in entertainment and sort of find your own way to where you want to be.
Now, I'm curious to know, what does a typical day within the program looks like for the kids?
Yeah, so it's actually an asynchronous and remote program, which allows us to reach different parts of the country, and it also allows us to tailor to everyone's busy schedule. So typically, once we choose our applicants, we sit down for a general meeting with them. We really just get to know them, their goals, what schools they want to apply to, and then from there, it's really a lot of the work relies on the students because it is for their college application. So they'll be writing essays, and then we'll jump on a meeting, we'll give notes, talk about that. We also pair them with an additional mentor aside from myself. So there might be one at a different school that they're interested in, and then there's one at USC. And so we're able to really sort of workshop their entire portfolio with them. Yeah.
Now, I really want to highlight, the fact that it's there to help children and students from underrepresented backgrounds, especially, with these applications, with, being a part of these programs. Can you talk about the importance of that? And then I know that, how does it, I guess, make children feel safer that they're in a community with people who kind of have the same background as them?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think, of course, as you said, the program is geared towards underrepresented or lower income students. And of course, that came a lot from my background. A lot of the mentors we pair them with, I try to sort of pair them with someone who also has their interests or reflects them racially or just in terms of identity. That way they know there is a seat at the table for them, and that there is a possibility in film school and beyond to see themselves reflected. And so, yeah, that was really just important to me because, as I said before, film schools are associated with lucrative careers, especially the top programs, NYU, USC, Chapman. A lot of places like that does lead to a very strong career. And so, if we're trying to improve diversity in the whole industry, it's that this is a key place to focus on. And so that's why we sort of targeted it.
Now, what are the requirements for joining? And can you talk about the deadline extension?
Yeah, so we look at applicants holistically, almost like schools do. You do have to be in good academic standing. We look at any of your previous work just to sort of make sure not only are you at the level to sort of thrive in these programs, but also grow within them. So we look at that, and then you also do have to come from an underrepresented background. Viewers can find that information on our application. And then, yes, our deadline has been extended to July 14th. We just want to make sure we're reaching as many students as possible.
Now, in what ways does the program expand on networking opportunities, which is so important in the field of media, television, all that networking is crucial. So how does this program help with that?
Yeah, so a lot of our program relies on what I call organic networking. It's not like we're having mixers where, everyone's in a suit and tie and trying to get each other's LinkedIn. A lot of it comes from the people they're meeting in the meetings, whether it be their mentors or the industry professionals. It's sort of getting to know them, and they get to establish a very natural rapport between each other and have that door be open. A lot of the mentors and people we're bringing in to talk to them work above the line in higher positions, typically hiring positions. And so if they have a film set, that they're trying to find crew for, ideally they would also reach out to our mentees and talk to them about it.
Now, can you share, maybe some quick success stories of, maybe some people that you saw when they first came in and then how they, how they've grown since they left?
Yeah, I will say I think all of our mentees are successful in their own right. It's such a big deal to go to college. Some of them are the first in their family, but Nobert, who I mentioned earlier, who was the first one, he's entering his sophomore year at USC in the same major as I was, film and television production. Just being able to see him blossom and bloom, and he's really also voiced the amount of resources that USC has been able to provide him and what that means to him, and yeah.
That's amazing. I love to hear. I think this is an amazing program. What do you hope to see for the future of Vanmoto Media?
Yeah, we work primarily in development right now, so we have some cool projects in the pipeline. We just shot a project in London with these two directors, Natasha and Beth Perkin, and it starred Jack Grazer from Shazam at Pixar's Luca. That was really awesome, but I also want us to continue operating as a think tank in many ways. I think diversity and inclusion has sort of fallen under a lot of criticism, especially by conservative politicians and just the general cultural sphere that we're in. But at the end of the day, it's central to who we are as a company, and it's not going anywhere. And so we definitely stand by that and want to continue doing work that supports that.
Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us. This is an amazing program. It's always great to see, a BronxNet alum, do amazing things. And I love what you're providing, as you mentioned, for people who are from backgrounds that aren't usually represented in media. So once again, thank you so much for joining us and having this discussion.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
If you or someone you know may or would like to sign up for the Vanmoto Media Film School Mentorship Program, please go to their website at vanmotomedia.com. Thank you again to Jackson Van Horn for coming on the show and helping inform our viewers of his program. We have to take a quick break. We'll be back with more Open after this.
Only 57% of New York City high school students are college ready by their senior year. .55% of high school graduates either have no plans to attend college or are uncertain that they will ever attend. .34% of young adults don't go to college because they can't afford it. Discover what's possible. BronxNet's education programs, internships, and opportunities help engage and inspire Bronx youth and beyond to pursue their passions. Be a part of the BronxNet family. Whether you're interested in our shows, joining a class, or donating to support our mission, visit BronxNet.org to learn more.
Welcome back. Motion, the city's only women-run co-ed youth basketball program, has partnered up with the Bronx-based nonprofit WEDCO to bring competitive yet fun league play to kids. Joining me in studio to discuss the program is Maureen Holohan, the executive director of Motion Basketball, and Jamie Yellen, the youth program director for PS/IS218. Thank you both so much for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, Maureen, before we discuss the partnership a little bit further, can you tell us a little bit more about Motion Basketball?
We started in 2009 after I was coaching one of the first youth sports programs in the city, and the problem was we were traveling to Long Island, and there are teams now that travel to Jersey, they travel to Baltimore and Boston, and I said right away that as a kid, you don't really have to do this, and I wasn't too keen on having the parents go so far. So I said, why don't we just go up to Harlem and play? Why don't we go to the East Side and play? And eventually we started picking up some teams in the Bronx too.
That's amazing. Now, Jamie, can you explain a little bit more, tell me a little bit more about WEDCO and how this collaboration kind of started?
Yeah, I mean, WEDCO does a lot of things, but I work in the youth department, so I run the after-school program at PSIS218, which is a K-8 school. Maureen and I were just talking about this the other day, and I don't remember exactly how we found each other, but fortune had it that we did find each other, and I had a basketball team going, and we were looking for more league play opportunities, and again, somehow we connected with each other, and the rest is blissful history.
Now, I want to, kind of mention that we had the privilege or, the great opportunity to talk a little bit before the interview and talk about sports. And I was just kind of thinking about my own experience and how, there weren't a lot of opportunities to play sports and then, play sports competitively. Can you talk about the importance of having that opportunity for kids?
Well, I think what we're finding across the country is that youth sports is a $40 billion industry. So what's happening is that parents feel the pressure of missing out, and they feel the need to put their kid into travel. And that's third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, and it's really expensive. When I grew up, my dad had the keys to St. Jude's gym. I don't remember paying any coach until we were recruitable college athletes. So what's happening is that with the pay-to-play model, is that people who can pay or take out loans to pay or go in debt to pay are paying, and then a lot of the kids who can't afford to pay are kind of being gutted as far as what's left behind in the neighborhoods. So this is a really interesting time in our youth sports history, is are we gonna go back to having recreational play to be with friends, play to get the uniform, play to have a sense of purpose, or is it all going to be elite travel that isn't really elite?
And with that, I just thinking about it, I didn't even think about all the cost that goes into it, just having the uniforms and the access to, places to practice. So many different things go into that. And, now that we're talking about it, how does this affect particularly families in places like the Bronx where, not only may they not have like the resources, but the parents are kind of busy with work and trying to making sure the home is, kind of in a stable condition. Can you talk a little bit more about that experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really important for WEDCO and for more organizations too to offer as much free programming as possible, because exactly what you said, like access isn't there for the youth, and parents are being pulled a million different ways, and then we're losing out on the organized sport experience for those youth because they're playing still, but they're playing pickup basketball or pickup soccer or whatever activity it is they're doing. They're just going to the park and doing it with their friends and finding time, and then they're kind of missing out on a lot of the sort of the benefits of playing in a more structured environment. So like I said, for WEDCO, access is so important to us, and making sure that everything is free for our participants, and that they're getting the same experience that anyone in a more affluent area would also have access to.
Now, how did the pandemic affect the program?
Well, Motion is based largely out of the Upper West Side, Upper East Side, and Harlem. And we happened to renovate a bunch of courts right before the pandemic outside, never thinking it would serve us, but we did it for the community. And we then needed those hoops to survive the pandemic. But one of the things that's important to also point out is usually parents like to pick a sport or activity that is close to their home. Mm-hmm. At least my parents did with 4 kids, and my dad would pick up everybody in the neighborhood on the way to practice and bring them all back. So with travel, you can imagine having to go to a different borough to play on a travel team is really stressful for somebody who's trying to hold 2 jobs like my mom and dad were. And then the second thing is girls tend to be the last to be served in situations where you have a very competitive environment. So during the pandemic, I found a lot of girls were not getting what they had been getting. And then two, a lot of kids travel-wise, everybody was afraid to travel. Playing indoor in a basketball gym was risky for some people. So the outdoor sports ended up scooping up a lot of the kids. So they're the ones coming out of the pandemic with much higher numbers, lacrosse, soccer. And basketball, the only thing about basketball that is great is it's a very low barrier to entry as far as you need a ball and you can go outside, and there's all over New York, we're in the Bronx, there's the famous courts. So there is a lower barrier of entry and a lower cost, but there are costs to getting gym spaces, paying for coaches. A lot of coaches also were being paid a lot of money for private sessions, and we could never get them back into like a reasonable hourly coaching wage for a group of kids who couldn't afford to play.
Now, I want to touch on something that I think is super important, and that is the mentioning of girls within this sport. Can you just explain why it's so important to have, not only this sport available for girls to play, but in a competitive way? I understand that, at least in my neighborhood or, in my community, basketball is kind of focused on boys more often. So can you talk about your experience noticing that and why it's important for girls to have this access?
Well, I think for Jamie, if you want to tell the story about the girl on the boys team out of your program.
Yeah, so we started with just, when we started the basketball program, when I started it there, because it had a former iteration, it, was almost 10 years ago, and it was only boys that were interested. And then one of the young girls, her older brother was on the team, and she was like, I want to do it. And it was just middle school boys at that time, and she was in like 3rd or 4th grade. And we were like, okay. So she started playing on the team with them, and over time her friends saw her doing that and getting interested, and within a couple years we had enough girls interested to have a boys team and a girls team, and that's right around the time that we found Maureen in Motion. And so it was really great to get them to have some experience, and they had a much lower sport IQ than the boys did with it. It was a new experience for them, but that's the best way to learn, is to get in there and actually play and have exposure to league setting, a team setting, and they got a lot of great experience.
And kind of talking about sports, I would love to take it a little bit larger for a second. I would say this year we had an amazing year for women's basketball, and so many young girls, found women that they could look up to, within the league. Can you just explain, what you've noticed or how that has possibly impacted the work that you do with little girls who are interested in basketball?
Well, Angel Reese is always talked about hand in hand with Caitlin Clark, but if you were to watch the way both of them play, they play with this relentless, wild abandon, unapologetic. I mean, Angel Reese's output is remarkable. She set rebounding records her freshman year in the best women's basketball league in the world. So people saw that, and they saw the pride they took in that. And that's really important for girls to see it. Representation does matter, as we've learned this week how hard it's been, because we really want to see more women in leadership positions. And the other thing, keep it on the simplest level, is what you mentioned, is kids really want to play with their friends. And I have to say that even though that trophy's kind of cool, there's nothing like giving those kids a uniform. They just love getting their uniforms, much more than a trophy. And it gives them a sense of purpose. So if you give a kid a reason to get out of bed in the morning, the way basketball gave me, and you give them a role model, and you give them a team to go to, I mean, they're going to be inspired to do better every day.
And I kind of want to expand on that. What are the benefits of being in a sport? What benefit does that have on, just their personal confidence, their self-esteem, and also how does it impact them educationally?
For me, I think there's a lot of like social and emotional benefits, as well as obvious physical benefits. So they are learning how to work together, how to communicate more effectively, obviously leadership skills, and once they have sort of, as Maureen hinted at, like something to get out of bed in the morning for, I think you start to see that they find what success feels like, and what being passionate about something feels like, and they start to want to mirror that feeling in other areas of their lives. So we do then start to see more academic growth. And in our program, we want those two things to go hand in hand. So we are kind of keeping track of what their grades are looking like. We have a partnership with the school that we work with. So we're seeing what their report cards are. We're seeing where we can provide them extra academic support, because we want them to be a well-rounded and successful individual.
Now, I understand that the registration for the winter of 2025 is now open. Can you tell us what people need to know before applying?
Well, the whole model for the Gotham Basketball League is I formed the league to include teams who have paying kids and then teams who don't have paying kids. So people form their teams like the Knicks and the Lakers, and we all jump into this Gotham Basketball League. So if you want to reach out to figure out if you can join some of the clinics and get your kids involved, we are going to hopefully offer some clinics up in the Bronx at Jamie's facility. So you could reach out to me at momotion.org, mo@momotion.org, to find out where we can do these free clinics, when we can do them, and get a little bigger picture of what the pay-to-play model is doing to help those who can't afford to pay for youth sports.
And what are some traits that you would love a kid to have, if they're interested in signing up and being part of the team?
Well, I'm going to pass this to Jamie, but before, I just want to add, I think one of the greatest things about sports is you can be honest with kids. If they are making a mistake and you ask them to not make the mistake, you can take them out. You can put them on the bench and say, you have to improve that, or we can't put you back in. And that's important no matter who the child is. So that's one of my favorite things to say at this point, because people are sometimes afraid to criticize a child too much, and sports is a great place, very safe place to do it.
Yeah. So we do tryouts for our basketball team with the kids because it's very high demand. They all want to be a part of it. And I know I'm not the one making the decisions, but I know that what we are looking for is less about their current skill level and more about like their curiosity, their sportsmanship, their grit, their determination. Like those are the things that we want to see, because we have coaches so that you can learn. You'll get experience, you'll learn, you'll get better. But you can't teach a kid to want more. Right. If that's not like kind of already ingrained in them. So those are what we're hoping to develop, students that are more passionate, and then we can work with them.
All right, so wonderful. Thank you so much. I want to thank you both so much for joining us and having this wonderful conversation. Definitely, I hope more people look into it. And to learn more, please go to the website on the screen below. We've come to the end of our show today. I'd like to thank all of our guests for joining us and you, the viewers, for tuning in. If you missed any part of today's show, you can catch the recablecast at 5 and 10 p.m. on Optimum Channel 67 and Verizon Fios Channel 33, or watch anytime on the web at BronxNet.org. You can catch a brand new episode of Open with Darren Jaime on Wednesday and with Rena Valentine on Friday. I'm Kibin Aline, wishing you and yours safety and wellness now and always. See you next time.